Are you sure about that?
Sure about what?
Starting it.
Yes.
Did you press the start button?
I did.
Did you make sure the record button's on?
I did.
Did you make sure my voice is being recorded?
No.
Well. Double check that then.
This is gonna be very funny if it's not. I think it is, though. I think we're good. I haven't done this in so long. I hope I remember how to do a podcast.
Right.
It's easy, right?
Podcast.
You just talk, right?
No.
Is that how you do a podcast?
I'm pretty sure we do a little dance.
I don't know how to do a dance. I'm paralyzed.
Mm.
I'm not, actually. I just don't want to dance.
Making paralyzed jokes at my expense now, are you, Dylan? I'm not paralyzed, but I had a lot of leg problems in the last couple months. It has been
some time since we uploaded a podcast. Or anything, honestly. Yeah.
Personally, I blame Joey.
Yeah, it's all Joey's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Almost exclusively Joey's fault.
Yes.
He better not be watching this. We're talking about some Inscryption stuff today, and he hasn't played that game yet. He's in here spoiling himself before he's played. I'm gonna go beat him up.
I'm gonna also go talk about some Ace Attorney villains, because I know Dylan doesn't care, and Joey really cares, so...
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the topic of the video today, we're going to be talking about villains, and I was thinking more modern video game ones, which is probably why you're seeing that in the thumbnail that I made before we started recording, but we're probably going to compare to some older classics as well. So I'm just going to put a list in the description probably of all the games that we're going to talk about today, and if you don't want to get spoiled on any of them, then don't listen. Go play them first.
Get the fuck out of this podcast.
Especially Inscryption. Like, dude, if you haven't played Inscryption yet, what is wrong with you? The game is amazing. Come on.
Depends on which half do you find more amazing.
The whole game is great, honestly. All three acts. I had problems with certain areas of the game, but honestly, after revisiting and looking back on some of it, it's all pretty good.
You just didn't know how to plan for long term in PO3's part.
I had a lot of trouble with the third act, yes. But I also had a lot of trouble with the second act, and I've replayed through the game in the story mode, and I got stuck in Act 2 again. So I mean, you know,
it's like hard, playing. Man. It's like playing Yu-Gi-Oh 2012 edition, but tournament edition, but worse.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna talk some villains today, but before we get into that,
we're just
before we get into that, we're going to give you guys an update here as to why we've been gone so long. Jer went to the hospital. Which is just one thing. On top of me just being completely fucking burned by work and just having almost no free time or... what's the word? Motivation to really do anything. Because I just come home from work so burnt out. I haven't been working on anything. I think I have a couple things in the pipeline I can work on that I have not looked at anything. I haven't even been working on my casual stuff outside of this channel. Like, I've been that burnt out.
This Christmas, Virgil Claus didn't come and visit us to give him some of his precious motivation.
Yeah. Instead, he just kind of kicked us in the shins and sent some flying swords through our doors.
Literally through my door, because I had to move.
Yeah. So, yeah. I wasn't going to go too in detail on your hospital stuff unless you wanted to, but... Okay, yeah. Just know that Jer had some troubles for the last few months on top of my troubles, and neither one of us has really had the motivation to do the channel.
And several mental breakdowns, but I've spent the last 2 weeks recuperating. I am mentally fortified. I don't want to say fully restored, but definitely fortified.
Right on.
Right.
Well, without further ado, again, one more time, we're going to be talking about multiple games today, and if they're all very good, at least the villains are, we think. So if you care about spoilers at all, go check that list. Right. If there's anything that we're talking in that list that you're not okay with, go play the game before you come back. And this is your last warning. Alright, all the filthy casuals are gone. Jer, what do you want to talk about first?
Clearly, the ending of B3 villain. I'm just kidding.
No, I think we've done Tsumugi to death. Monica might pop up in here somewhere too, because I think she's a really well-written, like, tragic type antagonist, but... Especially
with all the lore that she's gotten after the effect.
Oh, there's so much added stuff from Doki Doki Plus that Joey and I still need to do a fucking off-topic on later.
Right.
But, yeah, she might pop up here and there just because I think she's a good example to compare to some of these other ones that we might talk about.
Right.
But...
I'm gonna talk about some Ace Attorney villains, because fuck you, Ace Attorney's great. Dylan, you need to play the series. Like, oh my god.
Did you see the meme I sent you in the group chat where it's like Phoenix Wright, or it's like Ace Attorney players when they catch the killer named I Killed Dumb-Man.
No,
and then it's just like a dude dancing.
The meme is said is like when Ace Attorney fans convicting the person named I Cannot Drive. A vehicular manslaughter.
Vehicular manslaughter, yeah.
Don't laugh, that's a legit plot point.
It's so funny. Because I just kind of, like, from the little bit I've played, I'm like, that sounds pretty accurate, actually, yeah.
He's only played Investigations 1, and he only played the first case.
And it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Wait till you find, wait till you play through the series and go to Spirit of Justice, and you convict the person named That's Our Guy.
That just sounds so stupid, dude.
It's a foreign country, so it's, like, pronounced horribly, but it clearly, if you say it out loud, while you're trying to defend, I'll be your guide from the murder of peace, love, and understanding.
Good. Oh. Alright, man, go ahead.
Okay, who? I thought you were going first.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
I mean, I can. I was just going to dive right into Inscryption because it's still fresh in my mind, and I love the dynamic between these two.
Yeah.
So, if you're listening to this anyway and you haven't played Inscryption, fucking dirt upon your soul, whoever you are. This game is great. Gameplay is one thing, but what I want to look at today is the dynamic between our two main antagonists, Leshy and PO3, the two scribes. Grimora and Magnificus don't really get a whole lot of focus, and it's been said in a recent interview from the dev, Daniel Mullins, that they're not going to get expansions either, so there isn't really much to talk about with the two of them, unfortunately, because they're both also very interesting, but...
Yeah, man, I wanted to hear Magnificus go, "It's time!"
Yeah, no, dude, I love how his segment at the end is just a ripoff of fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! With the dual disc and everything.
Yeah.
It's so good. I think Magnificus has, like, the most boring deck, honestly. The Magic's cards are, like, really eh.
You clearly never played Magic the Gathering.
Well, yeah, but, like, Magnificus's cards are all pretty basic. They're all just, like, Mage Apprentices and Mox cards, and, like, some of them need Mox cards on the field to even be, like, effective at all.
I mean, Leshy's deck is literally just Yu-Gi-Oh! If you think about it.
Yeah. And, I mean, PO3's is a lot more, like, strategic and specific, and that's fine. Grimora's is all about having,
bones.
Yeah, Grimora's deck is weird. Like, it's really cool and it works if you know how to use it, but it's weird trying to figure it out, because, like, if shit dies, it has to be like oh, that's whatever, but there's certain cards that you need to make sure you always, like, keep alive. But,
Gravedigger.
Yeah, Gravedigger's very good. Especially if you go to the Mycologist and turn it into a Spore Digger, because then it digs up 2 bones at the end of every turn. It's very good. But what we're going to talk about is Leshy and PO3, the Scribe of Beasts and the Scribe of Robots.
Analogy.
Yeah. And it's such a great dynamic between these two. When you first boot up Inscryption, you're brought into Leshy's cabin, and Leshy teaches you the basics and how to play. And you learn how to play Inscryption through his beast cards and through him. You get enraptured in the idea of the whole game because of Leshy's storytelling. It's almost like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he's your DM, and he's leading you through this, not, I don't want to say complex, but entertaining narrative of your like journey and struggles through the woods to find his cabin out there where you have eventually made it. Because that's basically what he says he's doing, is he's recounting your tale of how you found yourself in his cabin. And when you die, he quote-unquote kills you, and he brings in a new challenger, and you relive the quote-unquote tale of how you found your way to his cabin. But he's very good at setting the mood, and he's very good at like telling you the story and bringing all this lore in between like the wood carver, and he explains the way she moves and how despite her age she's like moves vigorously and like quickly, almost ethereally. He plays the role of all the characters that you come across with his wooden masks. He puts this whole little world together for you. And yeah, his segment, if you've played the game, is very easy to break, especially if you get Ouroboros and you just fucking like, once you kind of get the basics down, you get to a point where he just becomes a pushover for most of the fights. Even the bosses aren't that threatening anymore. You just kind of run him over. And then
he gets visibly pissed. He stops becoming like less sing-songy in his actions and more like, alright, let's just get this over with. Kind of like Sans from Undertale if you beat him enough times.
Yeah.
And he just goes like, you little sick little fuck.
Well, it's like, you know, when you get to Leshy's final fight, he snaps a picture of the moon and turns the moon into a card. And unlike in the Endless mode, Casey's mod, which is currently in development, but you can play it if you hop over to the beta branch, in the main game, his moon card can be affected by things with Touch of Death that kill it in one hit, regardless of its 40 health. And it can also be affected by Stinky, which lowers its power by 1, and it only does 1 damage, so you can basically just make it not attack. It's so easy to cheese, and he gets so salty about it because it's supposed to be his big grand finale, his big dramatic final boss in this card battle.
Well, it was always affected by Stinky.
Yeah, you could. Well, not in the Endless mode.
Oh.
In the Endless mode beta, Casey's mod that's out right now, it actually has a new sigil on it called Made of Stone that makes it immune to Touch of Death and Stinky. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, he just gets so upset because it's like, wow, the moon can't even smell. It doesn't have a nose. How is it affected by Stinky? Such a stupid sigil. He gets salty at his own card game, and it just fucking kills me. But my favorite thing about him is that he builds the whole world for you to enjoy. And when you finally beat him and unlock the new game, and you move on into Act 2, where you're playing Inscryption. You're not playing Leshy's game anymore. You're playing Inscryption, the way it was always meant to be experienced. It kind of makes you miss Leshy a little bit. You feel a little like it's exciting moving on into like what the world was supposed to be, but like you get excited when you see everything outside of Leshy's cabin.
It actually feels like a game that would be on a floppy disk.
It does, yeah. It's very 8-bit, it's very retro, it's very small scale. Because all you have to do is beat all 4 scribes and then beat the scribe that you picked to start as at the beginning, and that's it. That's supposed to be the end of the game. And that's pretty small for a game like that. But lore-wise, Inscryption was also made as a game to cover up more horrendous evil things, the old data. Which, if you're not entirely aware, the old data doesn't have a whole lot known about it, but it is the force in the game that allows the scribes like Leshy to take over. So, but
apparently it's powerful enough to kill an innocent man for. So
yeah, and it's a great world. It's a really cool little world. I love how the area of the world that Grimora controls, the land of the undead, I love how it's shaped like a skeleton arm. And Magnificus has this big, tall, like, spire that's just sitting there. PO3 has a robot factory where he's just kind of scrounges, like, scrap and, like, old robots and turns them into cards. Leshy just has woods, which is where all his beast cards reside.
And all of his sidekicks, basically.
Yeah, the angler and the
Angler.
prospector. The trapper and trader are all over the place because they serve as like the store front, but they're also a boss that you have to fight when you get to Leshy's area because they're also technically his underlings, just like the angler and the prospector are.
Right.
And, you know, the other scribes all have underlings too. Grimora has a couple of skeletons that you have to fucking duel, and you have to learn about them a little bit. PO3 has a couple robots that, like, run the bridge and shit, like the dredger.
Magnificus' disciples, one of their puzzles is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, Magnificus, his disciples are funny. I'm forgetting someone. No, that's all 4 of them. Yeah. But, like, all of them have...
Scribe.
The best part about it is, like, all 4 of them have their own little group of, like, side characters that if they all took over the way Leshy did, you could reasonably see them playing a part somehow. Like, Prospector and Angler and Trapper Trader were all part of Leshy's game with the pelts and the boss system. And there's also these other side characters that you constantly run into, like the Bone Lord, who is present throughout all 3 acts, as well as the mycologists, which the mycologists have a lot of interesting shit going on, too.
Right.
But we'll get to them another time.
Well, Lord's literally just Satan, though, let's be frank.
Yeah. He's more helpful to you than he is hindering, too. He gives you more information about the old data if you know how to solve his little puzzles, and in Act 2, if you figure out the broken obol thing, he gives you a card that's, like, very good for undead decks. So... But yeah, they just all have their own like theme that they fit and work perfectly with, and you just kind of enjoy running through this world outside of Leshy's cabin. And it's a little bittersweet having to like kind of say goodbye to Leshy because he builds up such a great world. I know when I was playing, I was like, okay, this is a whole different game. It's a little weird. It's not what I was expecting. And I kind of like, I missed going back to Leshy. You know, I missed the like world building that he gave, but this is like a whole new world that you get to like kind of figure out on your own without someone like building it up for you. It's almost like Leshy's work in Act 1 is like the foundation for you going out to explore everything else in Act 2.
Right.
And that leads up into Act 3 when PO3 gets his hands on some old data thanks to the Dredger, and he takes over, and now you're playing PO3's game.
Just a side note, I hate roguelikes. I hate roguelikes with a passion. Like
you hate prologues?
Roguelikes.
Oh, roguelikes, yeah.
Yes. And the first part is definitely a roguelike. I was born with I was born with very, 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 very abysmal amount of luck.
Jay, the ultimate unlucky gamer.
Yeah. I would get screwed over so very hard during Leshy's, but it was not even funny. I'm the type of guy who'd be like, alright, I'm at the final boss, I'm all set, and I drew 3 bears. I drew only bears. And
well, to be fair, you shouldn't have a bunch of grizzlies in your deck anyways, unless you're built around black goats.
I had black goats though, Dylan. I had 3 of them. I drew all my grizzlies. I opened up all my tough cards, and I'm like, well, this sucks.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I play more Casey's mod than anything else in that game right now, because I like the endless mode, the roguelike section of it, and Casey's mod is a bit harder in the challenge department. I get screwed over a lot, especially because one of the challenges I'm running right now has me with only 1 candle, so if I make 1 mistake and lose a game for it, I have to start all over.
The Iron Man run.
Yup. And you have to take it because it gives the most challenge points for you to unlock the next challenge, so.
Speaking of Iron Man runs, I did my first XCOM 2 Iron Man.
Very nice.
And I beat him.
So, moving on to Act 3 of Inscryption, I had so much trouble with this.
I did not.
Yeah, funny enough, watching Markiplier play, he also struggled a little bit in Act 2, and he struggled a little bit with Act 3 at first, but almost instantly he kind of like got it down. Mark is a monster in Act 3, and you'll love to see it. But, here's the thing I love the most about it, is that PO3 is not a good world builder.
No, he's definitely...
He does not give a fuck about you enjoying his game. He just wants you to play it. and it's very apparent. And going back through it again after having beat the game, you can see all the times where he just did not care, and it shows. And it's fine, because as you can probably tell from just me talking about it, I enjoyed Leshy's segment a lot more gameplay-wise, and Jer enjoyed PO3's segment a lot more gameplay-wise.
The game is definitely more mechanical focus in PO3 segment, which is something I adore. I love deep mechanics in games. I don't like the simplicity of roguelikes where if you just die, you try again. No, I want to get it into a game where it's mechanically deep, and I can get in and I could get invested in it, because I was super invested at that point in time, because then I was just like, okay, and then I started getting Mox cards and I started getting OP decks where I was just fucking one-shotting everything. Yeah, it was great.
The thing that I love is just the contrast. If you set the two styles together, because Leshy gives you all this detail whenever you encounter things, like when you run into the prospector boss for the first time, he says shit like, the trees closed in around you, the light grew dim, you heard a loud clanging metal on stone just up ahead, and a man came into view. And then he puts the prospector mask on and starts playing the role of the prospector. Yeah, you got any gold in that there skull? Let me crack her open and take a look. Like, he gets you so enraptured in the moment, right?
Right.
And then, on the flip side, when you start PO3 section in Act 3, he puts the map down, it boots up. It's like this little holographic, your player model is on screen, right?
Right.
And he's like, welcome to Bottopia. This place used to be super rad, and now it's kind of not. You're going to go out and make it cool again by doing the Great Transcendence. And then he pauses, and he's like, what's that? Why are you doing the Great Transcendence?
You don't need to know
why. Because he doesn't say that. He's like, no, because you want to. And then he just moves on. Like, he doesn't really build this world up for you. A lot of his bosses are basically the same. They just have different mechanics, but they have enough character to them that they're still fun.
Like
but
the one that's searching your files on your PC.
Yeah, the archivist. Like, the bosses are cool, but they don't have any, like, character to them, you know?
Right.
And I'm okay with that. But I just love the contrast between him and Leshy, where Leshy is all about the fluff over crunch, and then PO3 is all about the strategy and the crunch over the, like, fluff and the pointless stuff, to what he considers pointless anyway.
Right.
And they're just two totally different, like, game environments, and they both exist within the same game, so they kind of appeal to everyone in a way, and it's just really cool to see. It's very clever writing. I really enjoyed it. Especially going back and looking at all the secrets. There's a lot of cool secrets and shit in this game. Like the mycologist, they have a secret boss fight in PO3 section, and he has no fucking clue how it happened or how it's, like, doing that, you know?
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Have you seen the mycologist boss fight on PO3 section, Jer?
No, I have not. I have to go look it up.
So, if you get the broken oval in Act 2, and you go talk to the Bone Lord, in Grimoire's Crypt, one of the items he gives you is a blue holographic key that looks like it's from PO3 section, even though you're not there yet. And then when you get to PO3 section, somewhere around, I think, either Grimoire or Leshy's area, it might even be the middle area where their hut normally is in Act 2, if you go there, there's an arrow that you can tap to go down to an area of the map that's secret. Because in PO3 section, there's arrows that you click to move around the map. If you move your mouse to areas without arrows, sometimes arrows might pop up, and that's a secret area. This one is just as secret, but you need the key to actually go into it. So you go down into the area, and there's a door. You pop the key in the door if you have it, and PO3 is like, what is that? Where did you get that? And you walk into the room, and it's just dark, and then it starts a fight, right? And then when the fight starts, like, PO3 is just like, what the hell is going on? This isn't part of my game. This isn't part of Bottopia. And then mushrooms start growing up on the scale. They start popping up with their little sound that they make in the game, right? And PO3's like, what is with these repugnant mushrooms? What the fuck is going on? And then he just, like, tilts. Like, his head tilts. Like, he just went unconscious. Mushrooms pop up on his head. The mycologists pop up on his screen with this, like, jump scare fucking scream. And then they just start saying, like, we are the mycologists, yes, it's time to experiment. And then you have to do a boss fight against them where their lanes on their side of the field move their cards over into the middle lane, and the middle lane combines those cards into one card.
Oh,
and
boy.
then for his second phase, he does the same thing to your lanes, so all your cards start combining. It's a very cool fight. It's very fun to watch because the mycologists, normally, they're in all three acts, just like the Bone Lord. Leshy has masks of them. You see them in pixel form in Act 2, but in Act 3 on PO3's monitor, they're like actual human faces on his screen. It's very unnerving. It's a very cool boss fight. Very cool secret. But, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to throw some props out to Daniel Mullins for all his work in this game, because it is fucking top-notch writing as far as video games go. And Leshy and PO3, for all their gripes about them, are great fucking antagonists.
Right.
They kind of go in a pair, hand in hand, because that's just how they are. And some of the best parts about it, too, is that when you start the game all the way back in Leshy's segment, you have cards that talk to you because they're the other scribes, and Leshy's turned them into beasts. And the one that you start with is the Stoat, which is PO3. So you spend so much time with him, and he's giving you all the help and direction and strategy to defeat Leshy, because he's all about strategy, and he's also actively criticizing Leshy's DMing style, and it makes me fucking laugh because it's just funny.
Yeah.
But he's there to help you the most. And then
I knew he was going to be a backstabbing bastard. What are you talking about?
Yeah. when you beat Leshy in Act 2, when you're going to beat all four scribes, PO3 actually walks in and mocks him for losing to you again, and then he brings the Stoat face up on his monitor, and he says, take a good long look at this face, because this is the last time you're going to see it. And then by the end of Act 2, PO3 ends up taking over, and now you're playing his game, and he has become the ultimate fucking villain because he's completely backstabbed you. He's not your friend. He's just out to, like... Leshy at least wanted to play the game. You know, he just wanted to play Inscryption. And if he had to make the others prisoners to do that... And, like, PO3 was mad about being turned into a Stoat, but after he leaves... After making fun of Leshy for losing to you again, Leshy's like, don't they understand? There's great honor in being a beast of nature, even something as lowly as a Stoat. Like, Leshy didn't see what he did to them as, like, punishment or, like, him taking control. He saw it as, like, something honorable, you know? He let them be cards in his game, and he let them, like, be there. As long as they didn't...
PO3, where the scribes did not show up at all.
Yeah, PO3 didn't turn any of the scribes into cards. He turned the Lonely Wizard and the Angler into cards, and that was it. Everyone else got the fucking boot.
Right.
Which I also thought was kind of interesting, but you eventually do find the scribes, and they kind of, like, work with you in a way to, like, overthrow PO3 when his guard is down. And it turns out, when you get to doing the Great Transcendence, that PO3 had tricked you again, because the Great Transcendence is his way of uploading Inscryption worldwide so that the whole world can play the game. And last minute, before the download can finish, Leshy pops up behind him and rips his head off. And then Grimora, in some, like, Bride of Frankenstein type way, where we're all better off gone, where we can't harm anybody anymore, just hits the delete button on Inscryption. And in the following moments before the game is completely deleted, you are sat down in Grimora's... Yeah, you're sat down in Grimora's crypt, and you get to do a section where she's in control, and you make it to a boss before she loses all the parts from the game to be able to do her boss fight. And then
GG, shake my hand.
You shake Grimora's hand, yeah. And then you go on to Leshy's segment again, and you get to do you get to do one more game against Leshy before all of his stuff gets deleted. And then when you guys can't play anymore, he says, it's been nice, Challenger, I liked you. You shake his hand, and then you go to Magnificus, and his shit is so unpolished and it's not very great. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh ripoff, but it's really funny for that idea alone because Magnificus is so serious. And you don't really get to do much of anything against him before everything in his area gets deleted too. And because he's standing so fucking far...
You get some sick 3D rotoscope all the way around shots, though.
You do get some cool 3D shit going on, yeah. But before anything can really happen, his fucking pedestal gets deleted and he falls, and he's too far away to be able to shake your hand, but he still tries before he gets deleted. And the real kicker is that by the end of it, even after the game has been erased, PO3 still made it through and the download finishes. Inscryption goes live. We are all playing it now as the modern people on Steam.
And Luke's fucking dead.
Yeah, and Luke fucking died, which, you know, is rough, but them's the breaks, kid.
I wonder if we can actually find the Lucky Carter on YouTube. That would be hilarious.
He does have an actual YouTube channel, yeah.
Oh my god.
he has pre-game uploads where Luke was uploading like clips from the game and shit before he started actually recording it from start to finish the way that we play it.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a great game, man. And there's lots of humble moments where, like, because you come so far from the moment you start in Leshy's cabin to the moment the game is getting erased, and you can just tell that Leshy especially is, like, proud of how far you came, and he's glad that he got to, like, play the game against you.
Right.
Like, he literally has a moment where he says, finally, a worthy challenger, you know? He doesn't say that legitimately, but that's basically what he, like, that's basically what the dialogue comes off
battle
as.
will be legendary.
Yeah. Like, it's just great. PO3's a great villain. He has such a great contrast to Leshy, who's a villain for the first half of the game. It's just also well written.
Leshy's a villain in the same sense that if you're playing D&D, the DM is technically the villain at the same time.
Yeah, because the DM is controlling all the enemies that you come across. Like, that,
right.
it works out so well. You know,
right.
And PO3 does a pretty alright job at that too, but he does not have nearly the level of detail or world building to get you invested as Leshy.
He's like an actual villain. You're like, I'm evil for being evil.
Yeah, honestly, that is actually a really good description of how PO3 operated, huh?
Yeah.
Also, if I'm making any of you mad calling him PO3, his name is pronounced PO3. I know some people out there call him Poe because leet speak. His name is not Poe. It has zero fucking meaning towards him as a character to be calling him that. And Daniel also confirmed his name is pronounced that way, PO3. So, you can get fucked with that if you're going to start typing an angry comment down there.
Right. When you said that, the first thing I thought about was that picture of Poe looking at Tai Lung, but it's all like water distorted.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to gush about Inscryption, because this game has dominated my fucking life, and it's probably one of the only things that's kept me afloat in terms of my mentality in the last few months. So,
right.
It is a treasure. It's a crime it didn't win Game of the Year.
I heard the game that won Game of the Year kind of deserved it.
It was Resident Evil Village.
Oh. Never fucking mind.
Yeah, I think Inscryption... I liked Resident Evil Village, don't get me wrong, but I think Inscryption had a lot more, like, love put into it.
Right.
But, you know, what can you do? It got nominated for Game of the Year. So, I mean, that's something.
Hey, that's like indie dev's dream, to be honest.
Yeah.
To even get nominated for Game of the Year, that means, oh man, I actually made something good.
Yeah. Alright, go ahead.
So, let me take you back to a time. The year is 1901. Japan and Britain have finally agreed to open their borders for the first time and do a great alliance. And oh boy, this is the story of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And it got released on Steam a couple of months ago, so it's relatively new and fresh. And oh boy, let me tell you. Yes, it did.
That's how you fucking... Alright, continue.
What? That's how I what?
That's how you justified slipping it into the discussion tonight.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I could talk about the original Ace Attorney trilogy that came out last year on Steam. If you really want me to reach, I'll do that.
Just go ahead, man.
I'm not gonna reach that far because most people who are big Ace Attorney fans know who the main villains are. I'm not gonna talk about the main villains of the trilogy because they're best left to be figured out because they're more of a mystery. The main villain in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is so in your face that I'm like, oh yeah, you're probably that guy who killed everyone, aren't you? It's a guy named Maelstrom. Mail as in Mael, as in like the Maelstrom. It's
Right.
he's so he's like Maelstrom Heart. So he is the main villain of all of Ace Attorney Chronicles, and oh man, does he have presence. I like my villains who have a big ass presence, right? This guy is literally the first time you see Strongheart is he literally comes in, he is waiting for you at the docks because you are a student, so sort of say a foreign exchange student. He is waiting for you at the docks. He is waiting for you from your 50-day trip from Japan. He has a time motif going on, and time is money for him, and time is power. And he's like, ah, yes. So where's your friend who's supposed to take up the case? And you're like, he's dead. I'm here to replace him. And he's like, ah, well, that's a pity. How about this? If you can participate in this one case and do well in this case and get a not guilty verdict, I will consider letting you be let you be an attorney in our great and powerful Britain. And this game, it's in the 1900s, so everything is racist as fuck.
Oh god.
He's in Great Britain, so everyone who looks at him are like looking down at any. Ryunosuke Naruhito is the protagonist. Everyone's looking down on him because he's like, he's Japanese. I don't understand. Why is he wearing such dark clothing? He has black magic. He's a devil. He's a jinx. And that's literally how they treat you. But Ryunosuke is like, well, I guess I can't really deal with prejudice much, so he just deals with it. And this is the start of Strongheart's like entire main villainy. He sets you up with a case you were destined to fail for, because in Ace Attorney games, there's always some opposing prosecutor after you get through the first prosecutor, which is always a pain. Literally, the guy was literally the guy's name was Lord Ouchie, as an ouchie. I love puns in Ace Attorney, man. But anyway, after you get through the first pain attorney, you get introduced to Lord Baron von Sykes. And this guy is such a legendary prosecutor. He has prosecuted for 5 years. And he came back from the shadows just to have a shot at you, and you specifically. And he's going to take you down. And in sort of a way, he does. Because the guy that you're defending, he's clearly Irish, because that's how he was written with an accent. Because most of he was like, oh, I'm just a wee little lad. I like all those things, like all the Irish stereotypes, because it's the 1900s, and yeah, stereotypes galore. But it gets more and more apparent that this Irishman literally killed the guy, and he committed the murder. And he, like, this entire facade of this Irishman in the higher upper class was literally the facade is fading, because he's like this rich man. He's like, oh, I've been giving back to the poor. I've been giving this wee little lass a good job for her to stay in. I've been giving charity work. And it turns out that he killed the man because he's like, oh, he owed me a lot of money. He's a bail bonds guy.
It's always money. My goodness.
It's always money. But it gets really weird because there is a big old like paint explosion, which I just redubbed it as a fire because that makes more sense, where everyone got evacuated. So a fire breaks out, and evidence that there was the big. Okay, I gotta stop playing F-Zero. I've been playing F-Zero this whole time, so I can describe this.
Okay.
Okay, so the main point of contention was the carriage. That they brought in a literal whole ass carriage in, which was the scene of the murder, where the guy got stabbed in the front to death. As soon as the fire breaks out and the smoke clears, the carriage just has a bunch of like things that are wrong with it that at first glance I'm like, oh, I might have missed it at first. like, yo, there's a blood stain on the floor. I might have missed it when I didn't first see him. And then it's like, no, because that's carriage was spotless when I brought it in. Van Sykes is literally questioning you, everything at it, and it comes up to the head. He clearly murdered him, but there's no definitive proof of the Irishman who killed him. And then you get him not guilty, but then the Irishman suddenly dies. He gets caught in. He goes inside the carriage, and it erupts in flames. So bringing the entire fire motif coming back around because it makes more sense that way instead of paint. So the entire carriage erupts in flames. Apparently, Baron von Sykes has this entire stigma and curse around him that even if you're not found not guilty, you eventually die by mysterious circumstances. And he gained this reputation of the Reaper of the Bailey. So every single time you find a not guilty verdict, these people suddenly start dying, and they suddenly start getting executed for no reason. So it's this lose-lose situation, and you get this like notorious reputation as the guy who goes against the Bailey, and everyone who wants to be defended, you're the only person who would go to defend them, but your fate is practically sealed already, and they're going to die anyway. It was a big ruse because the entire thing Strongheart wants to do is revolutionize the entire legal system with him at the top and him being right beside the Queen of England, right?
Right.
That's his whole goal. So he's been sending you on these cases that are destined to fail, so that way he could go out and justify. He's like, see these Nipponese. They don't call them Japanese. They call them Nipponese to more D-DAWG put them down more. They're like, these Nipponese, they don't understand anything about Great Britain law. Yeah, sure, they may have not gotten non guilty verdict, but they are in their archaic ways. They keep questioning the jury. They don't know anything about modernity. So it's up to us to reinvigorate the entire legal proceedings and bring in the new age of law. Because it's the turn of the century. It's the 1900s, turn of the century. Everything's all new and fresh, baby, and doesn't help that Herlock Sholmes is there, and he's not helping your cases whatsoever.
Fucking Herlock Sholmes. That's so stupid, dude.
Can't call him Sherlock Holmes, so you gotta call him Herlock Sholmes. Which ironically makes this Ace Attorney universe in the same universe as Lupin the Third, and I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway. And you get the advice, like, Herlock is like, oh, buddy, old chap, how about you just stay in the attic? And I'm like, don't you have, like, a nicer apartment? And he just laughs at you, and I'm like, no, the attic will do for you. And it's just this one big, like, roller coaster of everything just slowly going downhill, everything just becoming more and more, like, depraved situation. And then you find out, like, this big serial killer that happened, like, 5 years ago, named the Professor, because names were not original back in the day. So, I swear to God, but you get to meet more and more wacky characters that people were set up for you to fail. You go and convict another higher class gentleman who's dressed up in all white with yellow hair, and I shit you not, he goes underneath the alias of Eggs Benedict. And
I don't think I'm ever gonna fucking play these games because they're just gonna make me mad.
But it's clear, it's a clear line. It's not what his actual name is. His actual name is just like some like super high class like rich boy name.
Right.
But it's an alias, and he's getting assisted by these guys who look like your stereotypical like old time thieves. They have like the big dark black eye rings, and they look like Team Rocket grunts basically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And everything keeps getting set up for you to fail until finally Strongheart intervenes because you keep getting not guilty verdicts. And the one time you do get an axe, you're getting down to a hardcore not guilty verdict
Mm.
was versus Baron von Sykes, because of course one of the prosecutors is going to be in trouble, so that you can be like, I'm going to defend you, and they can question why, because I'm a good person, and they're like, shit, maybe I should become a good person.
Shit, man, I wish I was a good person.
Yeah. You don't know this, Dylan, but Miles Edgeworth used to be a very, very bad man.
Yeah.
He used to be the guy who's like, I would condemn 1,000 innocent, like hundreds of innocent people if that meant making sure I don't let one guilty person walk free. So he just basically forged a shit ton of evidence and just got everyone convicted guilty.
What a fool.
That's why you need Nick there, man. That's why the Edgeworth you're playing now, the super good boy Edgeworth, is post Revelation. He's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But unlike Edgeworth, Baron von Sykes is a lot more honorable. He will never use underhanded tactics. He's never going to backstab you in the face. He's not going to do perjury. He's not going to break the law. So he's very honorable, unlike any other prosecutor in this series. Because just name a few things off. Edgeworth, he forges evidence. Francisco von Karma, she assaults and batteries people with her whip.
Damn.
Godot, he assaults and batteries people by throwing hot coffee at their face, giving them third-degree burns.
Oh, jeez.
Clavier, not a bad guy. You're the bad guy.
Okay.
Simon Blackquill assaults people with his bird. There's a lot of assaulting people with objects.
Fair enough.
And the guy from Spirit of Justice Within, the worst prosecutor, because he has no interesting personality. He assaults you with a bunch of prayer beads. Yeah, Von Sykes doesn't assault you. The most thing he would do is there's one shot that he will do is where he puts his leg on the prosecutor's bench, and he basically just says, maybe you can lick my boots, and that's the worst thing he will do.
Jeez.
But then it keeps coming up to where Strongheart's literally like, I'm getting ready to wipe away the old world. And you just knew that this guy was like having a big plan, because he's got that face, you know, he's got that design, like, you're clearly the villain. He has the narrow eyes, the stereotypical, very angular face. He looked like he came out of a JoJo. He looked like he's a JoJo character out of everyone here.
Okay.
And yeah. So you're like, yeah, you're clearly the main villain. And it got to the point where he's talking to conversations like, forgive me, I'm going to be late for a meeting. And Corv was watching me play, and Corv was like, oh yes, I'm gonna be late for the meeting, I gotta go kill some more people, I got a bunch of people to murder.
Jeez.
Cool. I love Corv for that. But anyway, he has like the best like breakdown in the series, but getting to him to get the entire thing revealed is so great. I would say he's like the second best villain in the series, because the other best villain is in Ace Attorney Investigations 2, and I'm not going to spoil that. If you know who it is, you know who it is. And what would I would describe as final sweet justice revenge is that you finally have Strongheart on the ropes. You can't really convict him of like the murder, because he's never done any murders himself. He's always hired other people to do the murders for him. So
Right.
to convict him of doing the murders is almost literally impossible. So what you gotta do is prove that he's the Reaper of the Bailey, something that Von Sykes was accused of. So, after going through all these roundabout ways, getting all the clues and all the evidence that you need, and you finally get all the evidence you need, and then he literally claps, and he says, oh, the sweet justice, you actually finally get it. This is the justice that I've been working for. And you're like, what? And he's like, well, you see, I am currently the Minister of Justice right now. Only the Queen herself can declare me guilty. No one above me can declare me guilty. And he's the judge in this court.
Dang.
So he's literally like, I'm literally untouchable. Yes, you have got everything correct. Yes, this is a closed court. but there is literally nothing you can do. I have succeeded. I have done my game plan, and I am a winner. I am the winner. I have brought the new age of the law into the courts of Great Britain and the world. And he's kind of correct, because the system that you use from Ace Attorney in the future, which is like the old games with the modern timeline, it is the system that he put in place, because for the majority of the game, you're playing with the jury system. You got to convince 5 jurors to either vote not guilty or guilty, which is fun in its own right, but it's definitely not like the Ace Attorney style they're known for. You actually have to get evidence. You got to get evidence that proves that the person did it, and did it crime this way, instead of convincing 5 ambiguous people that they're going to either swing guilty or not guilty. So in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, instead of being like super directly linked to evidence, it's always circumstantial, because modern technology, it doesn't exist here. You can't go for fingerprints, you can't do blood testing, you can't do none of that. You have nothing that is definitive, so everything is circumstantial. You got to convince the jurors that everything is correct. But thanks to strong hearts, like experts in like modern criminology, you'll be able to play in the same system as regular Ace Attorney, because it's a final boss case in Ace Attorney, but it plays like a regular Ace Attorney case, because that's how it sets up. So Strongheart technically wins here, no matter how hard you try. He did his goal. He changed the laws in the entire country, the legal system, forever, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Until Sherlock Holmes appears.
Of course.
The four words that you never want to hear in this game, because either Sherlock Holmes is either going to do some really dumb shit that's going to waste your time, or Holmes is going to save everyone's ass. There is no in between. So Sherlock Holmes comes up and he's like, "Ah, yes. Have you ever heard of a telephone?" And they're like, "Yes, it's a revolutionary new communication device." Well, he's like, "Well, I just so happen to have the Queen of England on the end of this telephone. She's been listening out here the whole time."
Oh, of course. He got him with the pocket recorder type thing.
Yeah.
Damn.
And he calls up and he's like, "Oh, Iris, what does the Queen say?" And Iris comes in and she's like, "Yeah, she says that you're fired."
Damn.
And he proceeds to lose his shit. It's the most God of GG's moment in the entire Ace Attorney franchise, because it is a proper use of a Deus Ex Machina, in my opinion, because he is right. He is won like 100%. But the only way to get him behind bars to actually feel like an actual victory is for a Deus Ex Machina like this. Holmes at the very beginning, he's like, "Don't worry, old fellow. I will appear when the time is right. When the time that you most definitely need it. Either that, or I'll be snoozing in the lobby. One or the other."
Christ.
That is Schultz for you. He's either here to save the day, or he's napping. No in between. So yeah, Sholmes saves the day, and Strongheart has a breakdown where he's fired, so everyone's literally like, "Hang him, put him to the gallows, send him to jail, execute him." And he's like, order, I need order. Until he breaks his cane and the scales of justice fall on top of him, and he gets engulfed in flames. And I'm like,
damn. Yeah. So he didn't even get arrested, he just fucking died, huh?
No, being engulfed in flames in the middle of a breakdown is nothing.
Damn.
He's just singed. He's a little crispy.
Oh.
He didn't really die.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would have been more dramatic.
Mm-hmm. It's the most dramatic breakdown in the series.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, it's not as bad as everyone's going to die, like with Ted Tonate, a bomb defusal expert, and he's like, "I got a live bomb here." And he's like, "Well, but you're guilty." "Oh fuck. If I don't disassemble this bomb, we're all going to die." Christ. Yeah. I still say play the Ace Attorney series, Dylan. It's funny. It's great, and it's really well written.
Yeah, someday. I
One of
have
these
more
days.
time, I probably will.
Right. They are quite long.
Alright, well, we're coming up on an hour here, so I don't know. Do you want to run a little long today and cover like one more each, or do you just want to do one more and call it good?
One more each. Because we haven't been doing this for a long time, and I'm still like, it's only 11 o'clock at my time.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, the other big one I want to talk about is Spamton, who I'm sure you guys all fucking know by now, because Deltarune is popular.
Spamton.
Spamton is, I'm just gonna say it, I love Queen. Spamton is the real villain of Chapter 2. Queen is just there for the lulz. She's there for fun.
And the porn.
She's having a great fucking time, and I'm here for it. But Spamton, Toby is so gifted when it comes to writing villains who are both like funny, memey, and terrifying all in one.
Looking at you, Sans.
Yeah, Sans is another great example. I wouldn't technically consider him a villain, because even in the Genocide, when you're fighting him, you're the villain in that story. Because
you're the monster.
Because you're playing as the human.
Kara.
Yeah, you're playing as Kara basically, because she's by the time you get to Sans, Kara's basically in control, and that's why you're trying to kill him. Which is why a lot of people say you should do Genocide second, because it just makes the story hit harder.
Or never.
Or never. People who say never are fucking weak-willed. They don't know how to kill their darlings.
I don't want to ruin the world that I set up these precious babies in.
Yeah. But
you're asking me to murder a pawn of duckies, Dylan. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because you have no fucking spine. But
Dylan's the type of person who will be like, the oil incident, and be like, well, that's an inconvenience, and that's it. He won't even care about oceanic life.
You know, probably. But
those pelicans had it coming.
No, Queen is an alright villain. I actually don't have any real issues with her. She's just very goofy. And I absolutely love that after all the work she puts in all Chapter 2, it literally just takes Ralsei telling her what she's going to do will literally end existence as they know it. And she's like, oh, fuck, I did not know that. Sorry, Lamau. And then she just stops. Like, I love that is how you take her down. You didn't have to beat her in a fight like you did with King. And you didn't have to, like, bring her over to your side kind of like you did with Lancer. You didn't even have to, like, do the forced final confrontation like you have with Asgore in Undertale, who I also wouldn't really consider a villain. He's just someone that you have to fight.
He killed children, Dylan.
Yeah, but he's not an evil person. You know what I mean?
He killed children, Dylan.
God, I wouldn't even consider Asgore the antagonist of Undertale, because Flowey swoops in before he can really do anything and steals like the whole show.
Oh, Dylan, he killed
I
people.
Understand he's killed children, Jer. But he was not happy about it either. It was like last resort, something that it's like when we talk about Danganronpa V3, or just Danganronpa in general. He was a good person who was driven to do something horrendous for the sake of his people's survival.
I was going to say, don't you dare defend Angie. Don't you dare defend Angie. Don't you dare. We're not having that discussion. Save it for her episode.
Yeah, but I wasn't planning on it. I was just thinking like more an umbrella statement, that kind of covers all of them. Because like Gonta's, like the comparison I'm making to Asgore is like saying that Gonta's a villain for killing Miyu.
He still killed a person, Dylan.
Yeah, but he's not evil.
He's an antagonist, that's for sure.
He's a blackened. I wouldn't say he's an antagonist.
I disagree.
Antagonist is more specific. Gonta is a good character who's driven to do something awful.
The pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. Gonta's also heavily misguided, and he was very manipulated by the real fucking villain of that game, Kokichi, but I wouldn't even say Kokichi's a villain either, but I mean, based on the way that you're putting antagonist on top of Gonta, he would also fit that category.
I would agree. He actually he is definitely antagonistic. Yes.
Yeah.
He's not the primary antagonist. He's the secondary antagonist. He is, if I don't know how to describe it without
Exactly.
Do you know of the antagonist and the dragon scenario? Do you know anything about that?
The dragon is an obstacle, not necessarily the villain.
Right.
Type thing. Kind of like Maleficent is kind of a weird blend of both in Sleeping Beauty.
No, we don't not bringing up Maleficent. I'm saying more yes. Let me put it to perspective. Star Wars, right? You've seen at least Star Wars Episode 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Star Wars Episode 6. If the Emperor is the primary protagonist, but all the character-driven drama is on Vader's back, so he's technically the dragon in the scenario. The overall more important goal is to stop the Emperor, but the more character-driven stuff is on Vader's shoulders. That is the antagonist and the dragon.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
I would say that correlates back to Queen and Spamton, for sure.
Right.
Because most of the primary stuff that you have to go through is based with Queen. But if you look even just a little deeper, Spamton is the only one here who's truly out for evil intention. He feels like a real Toby Fox villain. And I can't really compare that to a lot because Toby's only also done Undertale. Well, I guess he's had a lot of work on Homestuck too. But there's just so much good character writing here. One of my favorite things about Spamton is how he gets an actual visceral reaction out of Chris, which Chris is just like Frisk. He's a silent protagonist. He doesn't say anything. The fact that Chris has a lot of interesting shit going on behind the scenes too, but the fact that Spamton, of all characters, gets such visceral and physical reactions out of your character is very impressive to me, and that lends this level of terror to him as a character, because he's not super outwardly terrifying unless he has moments that are very scary, like when he first turns Neo in the regular route. I'm not really going to talk the weird route, Snowgrave, whatever you want to call it, because it's mostly the same. It's just Spamton taking over in Queen's absence, as opposed to you turning him into this Frankenstein-esque monster, you know?
Right.
But there's just so much done right with Spamton that I feel he needed to be talked about. Because he has a great introduction, and it's one of my favorites for a villain, where you're just walking down a dark alleyway and this dumpster lid pops open and this little fucking rat of a man thing gets out and it's just like, hey kid, you want to buy some fucking
dubious
deals?
Little creature that's certainly up to no good. My name is Spamton. Geez, Spamton. Oh, the beast is demonic in nature.
He has such great opening dialogue in that whole first moment that you have with him, and then you get to fight him, and his fight really shows off a lot of him as a character also. His dialogue is great. I absolutely adore the fucking virusy adware type character design he has that carries over into his dialogue too. A lot of his he swears.
Redacted with malicious intent.
Yeah, he swears, but a lot of it gets fucking, subtitled over with adware bullshit, and that's, my favorite thing about it. Oh, God. I love how he calls Chris the little sponge. I love how he can't say soul, he has to say heart-shaped object.
Right.
He has a great design. He's very memorable. He's very simple to draw. He's very fun. And then he has the moments, like I was talking about before, where he gets actual physical reactions out of Chris. A lot of Chris's writing in Deltarune is based around the fact that he is a character trapped without free will. So, you are the soul inside of Chris, and Chris is his own individual, and you have possessed him and are controlling him much the same way we controlled Frisk in Undertale. The difference is that Chris is a separate character from us, the player, and does not like being controlled. And he has such a deep relation with Spamton, because Spamton kind of realizes in a way that, like, oh, this kid's a puppet on strings just like me, you know?
Right.
And there's like this kinship there, even though they're on opposite sides of it. Like, Spamton clearly terrifies Chris, and that's something, because you don't really get any other kind of emotional responses out of Chris, you know? Most of the dialogue comes from us, the player, but like Chris themselves, like when you first meet Spamton in the alleyway, he takes steps towards Chris, and Chris takes steps back. When he makes the crack about living in a goddamn garbage can, and then he laughs, he pauses, he spins around and like punches the shit out of the dumpster that he just jumped out of, and Chris steps back because it's like, holy fuck, you know? That is more of a reaction than you get out of Chris pretty much any other point in the game. I don't even think Frisk did that kind of shit with certain characters.
He got freaky underneath the bed.
Shut up, dude. But yeah, and then it happens again after you fight Spamton the first time. He says, I like you, kid, why don't you come down to my shop if you got time? And if you go to his shop, he tells you about the fucking disc and the thing in Queen's Mansion. Because he used to be in that mansion. He used to be living large and in charge. And there's plenty of like debate over, you know, the voice on the phone was who brought Spamton up into success. Most people think it's Gaster. There's a lot of build up behind that. It's probably Gaster, which is cool, but I'm not really gonna get into that. I just want to get into him as a character. Dude, that would be so funny if it was fucking Papyrus.
We haven't seen Papyrus yet, have we?
No, but Sans is there, and Sans keeps teasing that his brother's gonna come visit one of these days, and you'll be able to meet him.
In before Deltarune, the final chapter, the final boss is Papyrus.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But after you make it to Queen's Mansion, you can find the basement. Spamton gives you the key to go into the basement. And when you go into the basement, you go through this like abandoned like railroad track tunnel and shit, and you find this like empty robot husk. It's like an empty body with no data, no life in it. You take the disc out of its chest, and if you bring it back to Spamton, he will download himself into it, and then you take it back and plug it into the robot. And this is supposed to be Spamton, like, he plays this up as if, like, if you do this, then I will have an answer for both of us to finally be free. Like, he's trying to bring you on as his protege, basically. He's trying to help Chris break free of his puppet strings, the same way that Spamton is trying to do to himself, you know?
Right.
And at first it doesn't work, so you just leave. And Spamton fucking pops out. And I love this moment where his sprite is in shadow and you just see his head move around a little bit, like he's trying to like wake up and like figure out how his new body works. And then he's just like, holy, I feel great. And he's just talking about like how cool it feels and like how much more powerful he is and how he's finally broken his strings. And then he looks up and realizes that he's literally hanging from strings because he's graduated from being a little ventriloquist doll to being a literal fucking marionette. And he's just like, what the fuck? I was supposed to be free of my strings. And then his gaze falls on you. And just like every other Toby Fox villain in this game series, he wants your soul. Because that's the only way he's going to have enough power to literally and finally be free. And he takes more steps towards Chris, and he gets really scary really fast. And Chris takes steps back again.
Right.
And you go through this boss fight with him, and thus concludes and happens probably one of the greatest boss fights in Undertale/Deltarune as a series. Because, let me tell you, dude, the Spamton Neo fight in the normal route is fucking awesome. 3-for-1 special is basically, I guess, what it's called, because that's what he keeps saying, because after he corners Chris, Susie and Ralsei show up, and now all three of you are fighting him. And Susie and Ralsei have no fucking idea any of this was happening, by the way, because pretty much most of the moments where you were able to go and do all this, you didn't have them with you. They weren't with you when you meet Spamton, they weren't with you when you go back to his shop, they're with you when you go to Queen's Mansion, but I think you guys all split up pretty soon after that, and I know that they're with you when you're able to go back and get the disc and put it into the robot, but they do not follow you down into the basement. So all of this shit happens when you're pretty much without them. So they have no fucking idea who Spamton is or what the fuck is going on. But they see him threatening Chris, they show up and they help you. And when you beat Spamton, he basically passes himself off to you as another item, just like Jevil does in Chapter 1. But he doesn't have this adware with him anymore. He's an actual person. You're talking to the real Spamton G. Spamton now. And then he dies. And this whole idea that Chris could have been freed if Spamton was successful is now gone, because Spamton wasn't successful and he tried to kill you for it. And I guess it's just too much for Chris, because as you're going to leave, Chris just starts fucking screaming, apparently. Like, you don't hear it as a fucking player, but like Susie like literally stops you. It is like, Chris, are you okay? Why are you screaming? Like, and I just want to reiterate, these are big emotional reactions to a villain who had significant like underlying ties to this character.
You know what reminds me of? You ever seen the movie called Get Out?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I know what you're comparing it to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much like that, yeah. I just want to reiterate that, like, Chris is supposed to be our new player character. He's like Frisk. Can you name any moment in Undertale that Frisk had actual physical reactions like this to the villains?
Hugging Asriel.
Yeah. That's maybe the only one. When you go to fight Sans, he doesn't back down, because it's Kara at that point. Kara doesn't give a fuck. Kara's not scared of shit. In the pacifist route, I can't really think of anything. Omega Flowey, maybe.
First meeting Undying.
Yeah, but you have to run away as the player. Frisk doesn't actually do anything like cutscene-wise or out of your control.
Yeah, no, he does something. He backs up cutscene-wise. He gets to Frisk.
Does he?
Mm-hmm. Frisk got a little bit of agency.
I could be wrong then.
Yeah.
I still think it's...
Not as much.
I think it's much more significant in Deltarune, considering that Chris is like a separate character that has no free will.
Yeah, because Frisk's moment of like having free will is not like super prominent. You're not like focusing on them.
Yeah, and it's not the idea behind Undertale either. The idea behind Undertale is that your choices are important and they matter. And the idea behind Deltarune is that your choices don't matter, because your choices often get taken away from you in this game, even if you're able to make them. It happens a lot in Chapter 1 of Deltarune, where people like Susie... I know Susie has a moment specifically where she'll be like, so, do you want to die slow or do you want to die quick? And then it'll like bring up the screen for you to choose, but before you even have a moment to like read the choices, Susie will interrupt you and be like, never mind, don't answer, it doesn't matter, or something like that. And there's multiple moments like that in Chapter 1 where they just give you a choice and then say, oh wait, never mind. Chapter 2 is also kind of like that. But I'm really hoping we see more Spamton moving forward, because just the sheer like writing, Toby's a genius, honestly. He's very good at this. I'm glad that he's found success, because the shit that he comes up with they're fucking gems. I have never seen a character or a series of characters that are so terrifying and funny and just overall
Earthbound so hard.
Yeah, like, I'm sure Earthbound is just as good, because I know that's where Toby got a lot of his like the majority of his inspiration from, but he's really like, it says a lot to you as a game dev when people can easily identify your style, you know? And like, not to mention Toby also does all the music and everything. He's worked pretty much mostly on his own on this shit. He's got a couple other people helping him with certain things, but like as far as the writing and the characters and definitely the music go, he's a one-man band, and he is fucking killing it. I don't even know what else to touch on with Spamton. Just that he is incredibly well written. He's incredibly fun. It's no wonder he blew up. He's basically the new Sans Undertale, honestly. No one really talks about Sans and Megalovania anymore. It's all Spamton and Big Shot now.
So I heard you want to be a big shot.
Yeah, and I don't blame it, honestly. Big Shot's a banger fucking song. I've already probably, honestly, my next Risk of Rain 2 montage, whoever that character is, I'm probably going to use Big Shot somewhere, because it's just such a good fucking song, and there's so many good covers of it out there.
But Dylan, will it have the memeage of Megalovania?
Yes. Because it has the actual lyrics, now's your chance to be a big shot, which are entirely quotable because of everything that Spamton stands for as a character.
But will it have the staying power as Megalovania?
Yes.
Is Spamton in Smash?
That's true. Spamton was probably only a concept and still on paper before Sans even made it into Smash, honestly, so...
Yeah.
No chance there, but who knows? I mean, Toby got Sans and Megalovania both into Smash. He got to make songs for Pokemon Sword and Shield, which are pretty good. And you go and listen to them, even if you don't play Pokemon. You can go and listen to that fucking Battle Tower song, and you'd be like, oh, this is definitely a Toby Fox song.
Right.
Like, he just has this style with his music and with his characters that it's like, it's so easily identifiable at this point. It's like, oh, that's like a Toby Fox-ass character, you know?
Like Mick Gordon, but with 8-bit.
Yeah. And, he's just, man. If you don't have the time to go play Deltarune Chapter 2, at least look up all the shit about Spamton or watch someone play it. It's so good, man. Spamton is such a great character. And like I said, I love Queen, but I don't really consider her the primary antagonist of Chapter 2. I think Spamton gets that crown in spades. No pun intended. So, that's about all I got. We're at an hour, 16 minutes, Jer, so...
Now let's talk about a villain that I don't actually like, but not like loathing, seething hit, more like I'm just disappointed. I want to make this his own. I'm going to make it like his own video, and to basically where it says why, comparatively, why this villain fails compared to the previous game villain, so to say. Let's talk about Jin from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and why he fucking sucks.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about Andrew Ryan for a minute there, because you brought him up before we started recording.
No, because I would be like saying the same thing most people would say. But
Yeah.
He's just a great villain, even though like technically Fontaine is like the overall villain.
Yeah, Fontaine's the primary villain. Andrew's just the villain of like the first half.
He's the dragon. He's the dragon in the scenario.
Yeah.
Fontaine is the person with overall needs to go down, but Andrew Ryan's definitely the character with the most baggage.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So, I know that our buddy Landon's gonna hate me for this, but not really so hate me because how much he loves Xenoblade Chronicles 2 compared to the first one. I don't know if he's actually ever played the first one, has he?
I think so. I just know he likes the second one.
Yes, the second one, mechanically speaking, is better. Story-wise and written-wise, it is not as good. Like I said, I will probably deep dive this in my own time with my own like thoughts and opinions on it. But in my opinion, there was a definite hit in quality compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 main villain, which was a surprise twist villain, who I'm not going to talk about in great detail in this one, because Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is a great game, and I know Noah wants to play through it, so I'm not going to say who the actual villain is in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Fuck you, Noah. Stop listening to this podcast. But anyway, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does not hide who the villain is right off the back, because they're in your party first, and it's funny because you can look at the character artwork in general, and they're drawn by the same people who drew Final Fantasy characters.
Oh, so it's like painfully obvious who the villains are.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, they're not even hiding, like, these people are gonna... It looks like a white Sephiroth, basically, with a mask. It's not even trying to hide. And the problem I have with Jin is that, yes, Jin and Malos are, like, this dynamic duo who are carrying the entire story, that are, like, the main, like, villain focus. Like, if we don't stop these guys now, they're gonna go to the World Tree, and they're gonna kill us all. Great, sounds fun. Sounds like the same premise as Xenoblade Chronicles 1, where we have to go to Mechonis to stop the Mechon. If we don't, the Mechon will kill us all. Great. Sounds great, right? Execution is very bad. Jin is trying to be this really, really weird, edgy character, man. Like, his whole motivation is... I have to explain a little bit what Jin is. Jin is a blade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, he's what Pyra and Mithra are. And when blades don't have any, I forgot what they're called, drivers. They're called drivers in the game. The people who wield them, they will turn back into crystal gems, and then they will lose all their memories. So, about 500 years ago, Pyra and Mithra are a special case. They're like the Aegis. They don't really die when their driver dies, so to say, so it's more like an inconvenience for them. So, for Jin, oh god, I was lost in thought for a minute. Jin's motivation. Jin's motivation 500 years ago is that his driver was going to die. And there's an entire DLC exploring that. I have not played the DLC because I really didn't care about Jin. I didn't care about Laura, his driver. Only cool people were Adam, and Mithra's a bitch and doesn't deserve to be in the game. More on that in its own video. It's really hard to sell me on a villain who's like very bland and boring, because his whole motivation is just like, I just want to be immortal. I just want to be immortal so I just don't die, so I can live my life fullest and I don't have to worry about losing my memories. He's got this like notion in his like mindset where he just doesn't want to die, even though he kind of just doesn't understand life's purpose. That, oh yes, people do die eventually. That's like the whole point of life, right?
Right.
But he doesn't want to die. So what he does is immortalize his driver in some kind of ice crystal, completely freezing her for several hundred centuries, and is working with the bad guy because the bad guy promised, the Malice promised Jin that if he succeeds, all blades will basically live forever, and stuff like that. But Jin is the driving force of the entire conflict, and it doesn't work. Not at all. Because, spoilers for Pyra's story, Pyra wants to die. Pyra wants to die. She is suicidal as fuck. So...
Well,
yeah. But it doesn't work in that same sense, where you have a character who has shallow motivations, where he's like, I just don't want to lose anyone, I just don't want to die, I want to lose memories. And it's not fair that if the driver dies, we die too. And it's a weird point of contention, because that's setting up as the main conflict for... It sets the main conflict as that's the main driving force for the Pyra, Mithra, and Rex story line, when clearly it's the other character story. It's Zeke's and Pandoria's story, because Zeke's this bombastic, full-of-life character who's like, oh yes, I'm very happy, I'm like very bombastic, I want to take you on, champ, let's go do a fight 3 times in the boss fight, then I will join you on the party. Sort of character. But then like Zeke is like the super like down-to-earth type character. Yes, he's goofy and like bad luck. Like the very first fight you fight him on, he does his ultimate signature move and the cliff underneath him gives out and he falls several stories after doing the ultimate move. Same thing happens in the second encounter. He does the ultimate move, and a boulder comes down, chasing them down so they couldn't finish the ultimate move. Third time they fight him, he's like, yeah, I don't need to do the ultimate move anymore. I'm just gonna lean back, and the wooden fence that was keeping him above the cloud sea breaks, and he falls into the cloud sea. Zeke has more bad luck than me, which is, I find hilarious. But, anyway... Zeke's whole story is that, yes, back in the day, him and Pandoria are so close is because, back in the day, Zeke did something very stupid, which is, surprise, surprise, it's Zeke, he's gonna do something very stupid, but this was one that was gonna kill him. So he got half a core crystal transplanted into him, so that way he can live for a longer time and don't die. So him and Pandoria have the same core crystal, that's why they move in the same pattern. If you ever watch Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with anything from Zeke and Pandoria have the same body movements for most of the time. They do the same exact dynamic poses. They point. They have the same antics. They have the same literally everything. So it's because Zeke, even though as a big goofball, he's one of those crouching moron, hidden badass type characters. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Jiraiya from Naruto, where he's like, yes, but Zeke is that type of character who'd be like, hey, what kind of babe is hotter, Nia or Pyra? And Zeke will have an answer to that. But then if you ask Zeke the question, what is the meaning of life? Again, Zeke will have a deep philosophical meaning and the answer for that. He's a very deep and well-rounded, world-traveled character, even though he's only 28. He's seen the world. He's done things that most people haven't done, and he has this deep understanding of life. So it baffles me that Zeke and Jin don't have this very rival central focus of their story, because it's more focused on Pyra, Rex, and
Mithra?
Jin. No,
Oh.
We don't speak her name. Mithra's not a non-character. Mithra's a non-character. People who defend Mithra, I got some words for you. But anyway, besides the point, Pyra and Jin have these conflicting philosophies, but they really do not connect and don't even line comparatively to the first Xenoblade Chronicles game. Whereas Metal Face and Shulk have this very deep, very, very deep rivalry going on. They have very motivations one another. They're very connected. This also extends to the other antagonists, where Shulk just keeps getting more connections to the antagonists. Malice and Jin feel like these bad guys that you have to deal with, otherwise the world's going to be destroyed, but they have no real personal connections, because Jin has the habit of killing everyone who has an actual personal connection to him. Besides Pyra and Mithra. But that's because Jin could not kill them. So Jin is in this weird flux of being a really great villain. He could have been the next great Sephiroth, because spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth is trying to resurrect Jenova, and Jenova is the main big bad, so he could summon a meteor to destroy the entire world. So that's what Jin had the cusp of being that good, but he never reached it because he was never had a motivation. He never had a drive. He has a drive, but is being carried by more charismatic lesser villains, who, in my opinion, have more screen time and are better developed comparatively to Jin. Because the three other drivers / blades of Torna are more sympathetic. Well, not really sympathetic. One of them is, the other two are not. But they have more drives, they have more believable stuff. Where as two of them are being hunted down because they're considered abominations, and the other one was alive for 300 years, but he's been trying to help out everyone he could, and he aligned himself with this faction because he thinks this is the best outcome for the entire world in general. Jin doesn't have that philosophy. He's more of a butthurt teenager, angsty Shadow the Hedgehog looking motherfucker, even though he's completely white. Who's oh, I didn't want to die, and my fucking driver who I loved, I'm probably banged her too. She's going to die, so I don't think that's fair for me to die with her, so I'm just going to put her in ice so I can potentially live forever till I find a solution to save myself from all this. And it's bad, and they had to justify this with the DLC, so people are just going to give me hate for that. Just play the DLC, play the Golden Torna, just play the Torna expansion, The combat in Torna expansion is ass compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, though. The only way you're going to make me play the Golden expansion is literally for me to play as Adam, the legendary hero of 500 years ago, and that's because he's a better Rex. I don't know how they did it, but they made Rex a better character, even though Rex is kind of a bland, boring character compared to Shulk. But That's not even talking about Malice as a character. Malice just wants to destroy everything. It's just a general, like, I'm just going to burn everything to the ground because fuck you in this universe. That is his entire motivation. Compared to the very complex motivations of the very Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Like, if you ask like Metalface what his motivation is, why did he attack Holy 9? It's a very, like, well, Metalface is not very complicated as a villain, but he has at least two sentences compared to Malice's and Jin's one sentence of motivation of why he did that. For one, Metalface is like, I wanted the Monado, and fuck Dunban. That was his motivation. That was Metalface's motivation. That's all he needed to be. Jin was literally like, I just wanted not to die with my... I just didn't want to die. And Malice is just like, I just want to burn everything to the ground. And people are praising them as like these deep motivational characters, and I'm like, they're not that deep. They're as deep as a puddle. They're very shallow compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 characters. There's like a big philosophy debate of there is actually a big philosophical debate between Shulk and one of the main bad guys near the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 1's. And it gets intense in Xenoblade, but then you go to Xenoblade 2 and it's not intense. It's not that good. The story is lacking in some ways. There are some good moments, mainly involving around Zeke and Nia, who are, in my opinion, are the best characters in the Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Because Nia is this character that you had the entire game, and she's gone through a character arc, and Zeke is this, like I said, crouching moron, hidden badass type character who's like very philosophical, deep in understanding. The rest of the game is literally fan service, and I hate that about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I like Pyra. I really do like Pyra. Pyra's a cool character. Shame that I only see her through half the game, because Mithra's a bitch. And she serves literally almost no purpose to the story except for more fan service. If you literally just take Mithra out of the story and just make it give Pyra a power-up, the same story can be told. But no,
Damn.
Rex gotta have a tsundere bitch around him 24/7 now, I guess, compared to the nice girl that Pyra is.
He's got to have a dom to his sub.
Yeah, Pyra's definitely still a dom. She's more like a Mithra will just step on his dick.
Good.
But yeah, it's just Jin's motivation was lackluster. I might have a different opinion if I played Torna in the Golden Country, but I highly doubt that, because the entire thing with like Jin's just like in that one's like, I'm just a naive little boy. Like, I just got born. I just got fused with my master. I'm just going to be going around and seeing the world with this girl who looks like Hinoka from Fire Emblem.
Jeez.
Flashing the designs, because now I look at Laura and all I see is Hinoka from Fire Emblem, and Hinoka is a non-character in her game. Well, would you look at that? Just like Laura. Short-haired, red-haired girls with like very weird sounding accents. I guess they don't have much of a story in Japanese games, I guess. Doesn't help that literally Hinoka is voiced by Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls, so she sounds like a chain smoker.
So she's voiced by Tara Strong, you mean?
Yes.
Lamau.
I mean, several of the characters in Fire Emblem Fates are voiced by Tara Strong, but Fire Emblem Fates has its own problems. I play a lot of problematic games, Dylan. I need help. I still recommend playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but just if you played Xenoblade Chronicles 1, it doesn't have as like an interesting like story. It doesn't have as strong as cast as the Xenoblade Chronicles 1's, because there's definitely no Shulk, there's definitely no Ryan, there's definitely like the best characters are going to be Nia and Zeke. Those are the only two characters I could consider being close to being actual Xenoblade characters. And even if you only played like X, for example, you still got complicated characters from X. You got Elma, you got Lynn, you got Lao. Oh my god, if Lao was in this fucking game, oh my god. Lao. Holy shit, from Xenoblade Chronicles X. Lau was just, oh, Com- comparatively, it's like, well, how would I phrase this so you would understand?
I think I've got it.
Jin is literally Arnold Schwarzenegger, uh, Dr. Freeze, or whatever his name is from Batman and Robin.
Mr. Freeze?
Mr. Freeze, yes, Mr. Freeze.
I fucking love Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger, dude.
With all the personality sucked out.
So you're saying it's cool because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Mr. Freeze.
But he was not allowed to speak, or not allowed to characterize himself.
Oh.
No, wait. He's like Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
That's a better comparison.
That's a much better comparison. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Arnold Schwarzenegger fucking killed it as Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I know, because... Oh, Batman has to be serious. No. No.
You know, Mr. Freeze was my favorite Batman villain when I was a kid.
I agree.
Just because the version in the animated series of him, which
was cool.
I haven't rewatched that series now that I'm older. I only ever watched it when I was a kid, unfortunately. But I always thought that Mr. Freeze was cool. And from what I know about Mr. Freeze, they played his story to the comics like pretty on the nose, if not better. But I had an action figure of that Mr. Freeze who had like a detachable head that you could put on little spider legs, which I always thought was really cool, and that's why I always liked that version of Mr. Freeze. But I actually have the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger on VHS, and I watched that one a lot as a kid. Dude, that movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
shame
hell
that they did
yeah.
to my boy Bane, though.
In what?
Batman and Robin. Bane was in Batman and Robin.
Was he?
Yes.
Is Batman and Robin the one that had Mr. Freeze in it?
Yes. And
I thought the
Poison Ivy.
Penguin was the other villain in that one.
The what?
The Penguin. I thought Penguin and Mr. Freeze were the villains in that one.
No, that is just Batman. That is just Batman. Batman and Robin is the one with Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy.
No, Batman is the Michael Keaton one. That's the one that had Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Oh, so many Batman movies. Oh
Yeah,
god.
they're kind of confusing because they're supposed to be cohesive, but they had a different actor play Batman in like every movie.
And I switched from Val Kilmer to someone else. I forgot.
Yeah, the first one was Michael Keaton
Mhm.
as Batman, and then that had Jack Nicholson as the Joker, which
Mhm.
that's a great fucking casting. First off, okay.
Mhm.
Do you imagine if they had Jim Carrey be the Joker instead of the Riddler?
In the
feel like if
Tim Burton movies, yeah.
Yeah,
That would
like
be-
I'll always love Jack Nicholson's Joker, but could you imagine if they if he did the Riddler instead and Jim Carrey did the Joker? I feel like that would have been a much better like pairing for actors to characters.
Right.
Because Jim Carrey's got that like he's already got that kind of act down. Like I don't think I really need to explain that, but like Jack Nicholson has that like. He has that like unhinged but like serious tone, especially for movies like The Shining, where he could really bring a lot to the Riddler as a character. I feel like instead of just making him another Jim Carrey character.
Right. You mean like what they did with Tommy Lee Jones with Two-Face?
I love that Two-Face, honestly. I think his makeup is a little like over the top, but
yeah.
I think it's because those movies are more for like family. And for like
Right.
kids, so they couldn't make his makeup like super fucking intense like they did in the Christian Bale series, which I also really enjoyed that Two-Face because you get to see the like slow build up from Harvey Dent to Two-Face. Plus, it's got Joker as well, so like I understand that being the best
Ledger,
one.
the living legend, as his Joker.
Yeah. So I can understand why people consider that one the best in the trilogy, but yeah.
No, but yeah, the movie with Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy had Bane in it too.
Oh, that's right. That one had Poison Ivy. That was Freeze and
Yeah.
Poison Ivy. Which one had the Penguin?
I think it was just Batman.
No, that one had the Joker. There was one where Penguin was one of the main villains and he teamed up with one of the other villains. Maybe it was that one. Was it Penguin, Freeze, and Poison Ivy?
No, Penguin was not with Mr. Freeze. It was just Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Bane.
I do not remember Bane being in that movie. I know Penguin was in one because they had Danny DeVito play him, and he had this like really disgusting penguin makeup that made his hands all webbed and shit. and he was like bald on top and he had a long pointy nose. Like he looked like he was halfway between mutating from human to penguin.
I think that was Batman Returns. I think it was the second movie. Because it's not in the...
Is there another one in between that we're not thinking of?
Yeah.
Huh. Weird. We'll have to look it up. It's kind of weird how that was our tangent, but it still stayed with the villains theme.
Yeah. That just means our tangents are getting better. Like.
There's a semblance of staying on topic in there somewhere.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about all the time we have for now. We're running a little longer than I thought we would, but I mean, what to expect?
It's a comeback.
It's a big old comeback special.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we got? What do we got to announce before we call it a night?
Expect a lot more videos because I'm going to be doing this full time. I am getting support I'm getting support through my mom, so I'm going to be doing this a lot more often.
Yeah, Jared's going to be full-time editing videos, so we're going to have content out all the time instead of these like month-long stretches where we don't have any.
Right.
And I am hopefully going to try and get back on some video editing. I haven't released the Risk of Rain 2 montage that I've had done for a while now, but I probably should soon. I think I still need to hit Keenan up for a thumbnail for it. That's all it needs, and then it's ready to be uploaded. It just doesn't have a thumbnail. So
you expect more videos on our normal times, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get back to doing the podcast regularly again.
Mm-hmm. Our New Year's resolution, in my opinion, is get at least halfway through V3.
Yeah, maybe our New Year's resolution for 2021 was to get at least. I think it was actually to finish Danganronpa 2. And that didn't happen because we just had setback after setback and we needed time. So, but I mean, hey, we got like halfway through too, so that's something.
Yeah. So next week's going to be Ibuki. I can't wait. I love talking about Ibuki. Then the week after that, it's going to be I Want to Kill Myself.
Yeah, we've got a lot of interesting... I guess we have two great characters coming up, and then one just really bad one.
Yeah. And don't be alarmed. I might do double uploads because I'm going to have a lot more free time, so...
He's got a lot of stuff in the pipe he's got to pump out before we can start recording more, so there's going to be a lot of uploads.
Instead of Monday just being exclusively Town and Salem, it's going to be double. Yeah. It's going to be group projects instead of like just me and Dylan playing Town and Salem. Because I don't think that's
basically we're trading upload schedules for Mondays and Fridays. Fridays are going to be the Town of Salem type vids, and then Mondays are going to be more of the group videos. I'm still going to upload Risk of Rain on Fridays. And montages like that. I'm still going to do. I'm going to do Town of Salem on Mondays too. Everything that it's more than one of us playing the game is going to be on Monday. I thought Town of Salem was going to stay strictly you and me because the boys never want to play it.
Yeah, I know. It's still going to be strictly you and me, but when I'm saying group projects, I mean more than one of us are playing a game.
Yeah.
If you want to do Risk of Rain, and if I want to do Fire Emblem, it's going to be on Friday. But if we do Town of Salem, or if we play Paladins with the boys, or if we play Super Mecha Champ when me and the boys play Super Mecha Champions, or if you do Risk of Rain with Dustin and everyone, we'll put that on Monday. Makes sense? When I say group projects, I mean people...
Anything besides just you and me. If it's any video involving the other boys.
Or you and me together.
Okay.
So when I say group is two or more.
So Friday's just going to be montages then? And just like solo stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a couple projects that I want to work out as well that I've always wanted to do. One of them I was talking about earlier was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I have like a complete breakdown in comparison to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and why it kind of failed as a sequel. The other one is going to be talking about one of my favorite franchises being destroyed. That happened in 2019. That is super vague because that says a lot.
Oh boy. Well, that's about it. I don't think I got anything else to touch on before we go.
I also live 5 hours away from Dustin, so...
Yeah, maybe we'll have a video where they meet up in person. It'll be fun.
And then us driving all the way up to Wyoming to go kidnap Dylan.
I think a video in the future where we're all just, like, hanging out in person. I don't know. I don't fucking know what we would do to record it, but, like... I don't know. Maybe we could all get in person and play fucking Uno or some shit. I don't know.
Or Mario Party.
Ooh, how would we record that, though?
I don't have a Switch that can... I do have an Elgato. I have a gaming capture recorder. but I don't have a normal Switch. I have a Switch Lite.
Yeah. I have an Elgato, but I have it loaned out to someone right now. So.
And I don't own Mario Party.
Neither do I. Not the new one. I have the shitty one that Nintendo. I'm never gonna let Nintendo live that down. I haven't forgotten Nintendo. Yeah, Deluxe, the one that has like 3 fucking maps and some pretty good mini games that they could have just updated instead of re-releasing an entirely separate fucking Mario Party game to make more money.
We've been tricked. We've been had. We have been quite, and we also have been quite possibly been bamboozled.
Yeah, I'm never gonna forget that, Nintendo. Don't think I forgot. I'm gonna pick up your stupid fucking Mario Party re-release, but only because I want to play it with friends. Because the one that you gave me already that I've already purchased is shit, and you're never gonna update it.
And then maybe we'll see Dustin's like true unboiled rage in action, like in the salt. We gotta do Salty Bed. We gotta do more Salty Bed. I've been wanting to do that too. We just haven't had time to sit down and do it. Well, we have time tomorrow.
Yeah. We just got to pull the guys away from Final Fantasy XIV for a bit. It's all in good, because I've been trying to do that for days now. Yeah. So it's probably not going to happen tomorrow, depending. We'll see. But, alright.
That or we could get Joey in for the podcast for a brief minute and torture him with knowledge.
On what, though?
Just anything that we can to tell him how he needs to experience these things. We gotta mold his malleable young mind, Dylan.
Yeah.
He needs to play more Ace Attorney. I can't believe we got him on it. He's
been obsessed with Your Turn to Die lately.
What?
Some game called Your Turn to Die. He said it's kind of like Danganronpa.
Right.
It's another anime visual novel from what I remember looking at. That's what he's been obsessed with lately. He keeps telling me I need to play that.
Right.
So.
Oh, God.
Alright.
I might do an entire Mass Effect playthrough, too, where I substitute Shepard's voice with my voice. As a voice acting project.
That's gonna... Okay. You do that, buddy. I gotta go figure out a thumbnail for the newest video so I can upload that and get it out of the fucking backlog.
Do you need a picture of Jin?
No, not for this one. For my Risk of Rain video.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want me to call up Guy Noob?
This ending's a fucking mess, dude. Good night. Go home. Stop listening to this podcast.